Welcome back to The Betrayed. I'm Gina Beck.
Drew Williams.
Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We appreciate y'all, especially the Apple Podcast reviews. Thank you so much. It means the world to us.
Thank you for the continued support and keep hashtagging Banana Cats because I love it. I love seeing it every time.
You're right. I'd like to just jump into this podcast. We have a special guest with us. She's going to college to become an at-risk youth counselor. I think that's amazing. We talked for like 3 hours the first time we ever talked to each other, and I insisted on her coming on here. So, Anna, how are you today?
I am great. How is everyone tonight?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. Great. I'm so happy to hear from you. We haven't talked in a while, but I know like our last conversation went on for hours. It was just like nonstop. There's like so much to cover. Okay. So I will begin with what made you decide to join Hunted and Confronted?
By the way, guys, she's turning this around on us, and she's going to interview us and ask us questions. It's going to be a little maybe new, but I'm excited.
The tables.
Yeah. What got me started is I saw that this was going on. I saw that teams were forming, and I just wanted to jump aboard. So I saw someone commenting in the comments saying that they're in an area near me, and I reached out and said, hey, I can do this and this and this, like photography, videography. I'm very organized. I would be your go-to gal for anything you need. So he had me be on the team, and we killed it. And I became very passionate because my sister, she has been abused, and other members in my family and some friends have been abused, and so it really hits close to home for me. And I just really wanted to make an impact in getting with this group, and the people that are behind the scenes were amazing. So
yeah, what you guys do is incredible, and I have so much respect for you, and I just always hope that you guys are safe. And speaking on that, and I'm sorry to hear about your sister. I have a couple of friends, but they're both guys, and I was going to get into that later, but just like the difference of how it affects boys from girls. It's just like I see like with the two that I know is just like a lot of overcompensation and a lot of like addiction just to cope with it, because especially during an anniversary or that time of year, it gets really hard, and you just like see those things repeating.
Yeah, 100%. Boys definitely have a harder time coping and knowing how to talk about it. They feel embarrassed, ashamed. Like it's hard to explain because I'm not a boy, but I know from men that I've talked to that they just don't feel right talking about it or letting like their friends know or anything like that. They're very secretive about it when it shouldn't be a secretive thing, even though I understand why they feel those emotions.
It is very secretive. Like that's like one of the things. It's like this one guy, he didn't tell his family until like 20 years later.
Yeah.
And he's just starting to deal with it. So it's like years of trauma and then addiction on top of it. So I think it's a part of like the masculinity being stolen a little bit, and it is like a little bit of embarrassed of like that power was kind of a bit taken away from me.
Yeah.
I know my friends, out of my entire group of friends of 30 years, I have one friend that has came out and said, yeah, I was molested. And that didn't come out till very much later in our life, until our relationship as friends just got closer.
Right.
And
someone very close to me came out like 2 years after knowing them, and then 29, 30 years after 29 or 30 years to their family, which is a really long time, kind of similar to the one that you're speaking of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pain that you have to hold in. You can't tell anyone. Let's just like imagine what that does like to the brain and body and just mind. I think what you do is so brave. Like, I know that you're the one that it's a lot of the times you're the decoy and you're the one on the phone and you're chatting with them and you're seeing the pictures and the conversations and how they steer it. And then you come and you confront them. Like, what kind of feelings like run through you? Like, I'm curious to know, like, right before, during, and after.
Oh, wow. During talking to them as the decoy and just over text message or through the phone, feeling a lot of emotions, a lot. And there's sometimes where I would have to go into the chat, show screenshots to my team, talk to them, try to crack jokes. Just we have one member, Jared Roy, who's been on here with us, and he's the comedian of the group, and so he would always make us laugh and just do a good job at turning tables around and making things funny and just easier going rather than just staring at the screen the whole time and just being totally invested in what's going on, which is like sick and disgusting behavior. So he definitely lightens the mood. But during times like when Jared isn't around or something like that, there's usually always someone that we're able to talk to. So that is nice. And just say if there's not, there's been times where like I have cried. I have gotten really emotional because of the things that are being said because it's just so vulgar, too vulgar to repeat. So building up all those emotions because we talk for quite some time before exposing
You
majority
get
of
to really know them. Like they probably tell you personal, like not all of it can't be about sex. I'm sure they tell you about
oh
their
yeah.
lives, you know?
Oh yeah, for example, Ken. Everybody knows Ken. I have recordings of hours of him telling stories about his dad being in the KKK, about
Well,
Netflix wanting to do a documentary with him. He opened up about the woman that even he abused, and that helped us find his record.
oh,
Things like
wow.
yeah, things like that. So they definitely open up a lot. So building up all those emotions before meeting them, and then when you finally see them and you're about to confront them, it's definitely a lot of adrenaline and like a finally moment, right? And then
Yeah.
during, it's a lot of adrenaline and a little anxiety because you never know what's going to happen. But all you're thinking is just finally, really. And you're just thinking of the questions that you want answered and hoping that you ask every question that you want before it ends. And then afterwards, it's kind of like, depending on how it goes, as long as they don't just turn around and walk away, that's like, oh, darn it, like feeling like we could have gotten so many questions. We could have called the cops, like whatever the situation is. It sucks when they just turn around and leave. But when they stay and we either have police on scene and get arrest, or if the police let them go, or if the police don't want to work with us in that area and we have to let them go, it's just a lot of different feelings. It's really hard to explain depending on the situation, but it feels good getting them, definitely.
I mean, I told you how I found you guys. I was like scrolling through Instagram and I saw and I just like couldn't stop watching because I thought it was like that's so brave and like it's incredible. But like you're the one since you talk to them and like when you're confronting them and they're just like completely lying to your face, like and you just want to be like, but I was the one talking to you. I have everything. Like how can you sit here and be like, nah, that wasn't me. But and also I've noticed that a lot of them do want to stay. Like they want to talk. They a lot of the times they're also like, I knew it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
and
the
like,
interesting
I
thing
knew it.
when
You knew it. You knew.
yeah, and that's the interesting thing is when they just sit and talk. I think it's very interesting because a lot of people would think, why is he sitting there? Why is he just sitting there letting you guys ask these questions? This is fake. This is not real. He's an actor or something, but who would want to act like a predator and have that tied to their face and their name? It's definitely real, and they definitely talk. And I think it's because either they are seeking help somewhere inside, they are wanting help and curious on what you have to say and what you have to offer in this kind of situation, not being a cop. And also, I think just curiosity. Sometimes it doesn't matter if they want help or not, it's curiosity. And I think that they know that they are in trouble and maybe they could find a way to talk themselves out of it. I think,
Right. Do you think that they stay to be like this might make the situation better? Like if I
yeah,
cooperate, if I stay and I take the time, like he said, he won't call the cops. But the chat logs, everything, like I already know that's gonna be sent in. But I think it is like a way of them to purge and to be like, this is why. Like it's not out of nowhere. It's always because of abuse.
yeah.
Right? I mean, have you
There's
had
been,
any outliers that it wasn't tied with like previous abuse?
yeah, there's been a handful that have admitted abuse in the past, and there's a handful that have said nothing has happened to them. They don't know why they did it. We get all sorts of answers. The one I hate is there was a man in an orange sweatshirt, and he came and he said, "I came to tell her to shut up." What? The first I've ever heard that response, and we hear a lot of the same ones. I came to tell her to shut up, and I'm just like,
That's
You gotta be
awful.
kidding me. Like, what does that even mean? You came to tell her
You
to
could have
shut up.
blocked
What?
her.
But we get a lot of the same ones came to see if help her, came to tell her that she should go home. It's like, that's not your job to come and tell her that she should go home. You know,
Right.
if someone messages you and they're underage, you either just block them, don't even
Yeah.
talk to them, or ask for their ID. Because a lot of guys will say, "Oh, I thought it was a kink. You know, I thought it was like a fetish," and she was kidding. And my response to that is, did she say it was a fetish? Did she say it was a kink? No, and you didn't even bring it up either. So that's not even something to say. And when they say that, it's like, why didn't you ask for her ID then? If you thought it was a kink or something, which you know damn well it wasn't.
Or the worst is when they're like, she seduced me.
Yeah,
No, she can't do that.
like Jeff Christonaut, he admitted to being, what he said, seduced by a young girl when he admitted that he had sex with her. But he didn't think that it was rape. He said that he got seduced by her. And she was 15 at the time of exposing him, but she was 14 when it had happened. So the cops were able to reach out to family, and he got charged on that situation. But still, just hearing someone say that they got seduced by a child, come on, you're the adult in the situation, like in your 30s.
It also makes you seem so weak-minded, and it's like that's like the best you have, and it's like that's really not possible. You're the adult. You're the one with the control. Even if she is like quote unquote being sexy, you're the adult. You're the one that has to be like, calm down, little girl. If that is even the case, you know what I mean? Like, but that's never the case. What would you say your scariest confrontation has been?
Oh man. Had to have been the first time I ever decoyed my area. And he said he was coming to meet me, and we were having this meet was scheduled. We had just met a guy named Kenny in my town. So he said he was on his way. All of a sudden, he got in a car accident, and he wouldn't show the car accident. And then he just like quit talking. But what he had said prior was that he wanted to lock me up in his closet and keep me forever. He had a wife. He wanted to just hide me from her in the house and just keep me. And he just would always be on the phone trying to get me to talk dirty. And I'd always be like, I'm with my family. I don't even know what you're talking about. Like I'd always find ways to get off the phone, and I'd always have my team on the phone with me because it was so uncomfortable because I have a decoy phone and my regular phone. So I could go on Facebook Messenger with all of my team and talk to him on speakerphone, and it was like they were there with me, and
Right.
I was able to feel more comfortable. Like I was literally like shaking at some of the conversations that he was trying to have with me and get off the phone as fast as I could without just hanging up on him and him being mad or something, but never giving him what he wants ever. And so
Right.
I was able to get out of those conversations. But he lied. He was seeing what he could get out of me, and that being a kind of new decoy and not picking up on that was hard because now I can tell if you're just playing me to try to get pictures or phone conversations. But in the beginning, it was very hard. So he definitely played me. He just wanted to see what he could get from me. But I was able to get a lot of information from that and learn from that. And yeah, he's just a disgusting guy. He's even hit up other decoys, and other decoys tried decoying him, and he did the same thing. So
So
some
do
of
you
these
think
guys'
he's, like,
goals are just
onto
to
it?
see what's that.
Do you think like he was onto it, or it's just like some? Sorry, you were gonna say something. Or
Oh,
like
I was
some
just saying that
of
some
these
of these
guys.
guys' goals, their only goal is just to see what they can get. They're disgusting predators, but like just mainly virtual predators, where they don't
Right.
have
Just like,
no plans to meet you. They just want to see if they could get those nudes, hear you talk dirty over the phone, whatever they could get, and then just ignore you.
so I guess it's like different levels to it, like
Oh yeah,
depending
there's
on the
a
individual.
oh yeah, we just did a podcast about Mama Max, who is someone that everybody should check out. His recent video, he's a whole nother level of predator hunter. He gets into your device and he can see your text messages. Like there's no lying to Mama Max,
Wait, is
He
this a
sees
predator?
everything.
This
This is
is
a
a
predator
predator?
hunter who's also a very skilled
Oh,
hacker. So
oh,
he not only is getting these guys, but he gets everything from their computers. He'll find the amount of child pornography they have, things like that.
that is amazing. That
Yeah.
is great. Because, and also I was going to say, with your conversations, you probably learn a lot about them. So you can like probably poke a lot of holes into their stories and be like, hold on, that doesn't make sense.
Oh, for sure. Ken always had little white lies, but underneath, little truths. And you could
Right.
definitely put the pieces together and catch him. After talking to him for months, you definitely can put the pieces together and catch him in many lies.
Because you get to know them, right? I mean, you get to really know them, and you like see a pattern, or like you know when they're lying, or where they're kind of like trying to get away from you or beat around the bush about something. So out of the ones that you, because I know you guys don't just confront them and like make them call their wives and bosses and stuff like that. Like you do get them help. So like out of the ones that you've helped, like are there any success stories, like, or is there anyone or any persons like that you are still in touch with that is still seeking treatment?
We've had very few who have said, yes, I'll go get help and I'll follow up and I'll let you know that I went and got help. Very few, like I can count on my hands. And those ones never have followed up or reached back out and said, hey, I'm doing this and this and this. But from what I've seen from some other hunters, there's one who escorted one directly to the facility to get help right as he exposed him. That was the first time seeing that. And then there's another team who has guys reaching out, sending screenshots of that, like only two, I think, of them going to therapy and like asking if their video can come down. And he's not taking the video down, but it is showing a little bit of progress. So from us specifically, no, have not seen any success stories.
Is it progress, or is that just more manipulation just to get what they want? It's like, well, I'm getting help, but can you just take that video down? And it's like, as soon as, even if the, like, let's say theoretically the video goes down, they're not going to keep getting help.
Exactly.
I think it's hardwired sexuality. I don't think there is curing it.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to get into that. Like the trauma and the abuse being so severe and intense, like, is there any recovery from that, or you're just going to be scarred into like your nervous system and how you think and how you act? And it's just like, how do you deprogram someone from thinking like that when that's what happened to them when they were children, and then they continue to live that out as adults?
Go ahead, Drew. You can answer this one.
I don't. That's one of those things is where I don't know as a society what we're supposed to do with them. What's the moral way to deal with it? Because there's a lot of programs out there, but I don't see success stories. I mean, I've looked before. I don't. There's people that claim to be, but how?
What does a success story look like?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what does that mean?
I
Like,
don't. Right. I'm not even quite sure. I guess suppose someone
You don't know what they're thinking.
and hasn't like, right, unless you're like some invisible person next to them all the time, right? I guess you wouldn't know, but I would say like, just to like forward appearance, I would think like a success story would be that they, got in trouble and they sought help and continued to that day. Like they were still going to meet, still talking about it, not suppressing it, not like acting on their instincts of.
Right. Just continuous help, continuous therapy. If you have urges, go to therapy, call your therapist, call whoever is the person that's your go-to that you can be open with. There's ways to not hurt kids, you know what I mean? Like if you have those triggers, if you have those urges, call the person that you talk
I don't
to.
think anyone wakes up and says, I want to be a pedophile. Like, I don't really, as much as I dislike all of them, I don't really think that they choose to be that way, but it seems as ridiculous as like people saying pray the gay away. Like,
Exactly. I think it's more so like, if anything, like the closest thing I guess, it's like an addiction, like a really like sick addiction that is like, you have to work at it every day and be like, no, bad.
Yeah. What's really sad is when someone has been abused and they abuse someone else, and that's like a question that comes up when confronting someone that admits to being abused. Why would you want to pass that on to someone else? Why would you want to give someone else the emotions and the feelings that you had when you are obviously going through this? And that's just they don't really have an answer.
But they, from what I heard, they're like, I wouldn't, but it's like, but you are, you are. Like you're saying you wouldn't want to, but you quite literally in this moment are doing exactly what you said you wouldn't want to happen to you. So the last time we spoke a lot about decoys, and I was like, I'm like, that must be like that's like a hard life to like see that on the screen every day. And what's an ideal decoy? Because not everyone has the stomach for it, right? I mean, let's just be real.
No, I've had, first of all, an ideal decoy is someone that can stay innocent 100% of the time. Someone that doesn't give in and give any of these guys what they want. Because once you give them what they want, they win, you lose. And there's ways to get out of things, and there's ways to get yourself out of conversations and situations to be able to not give them what they want. Honestly, I've said this before on podcast. Guys are stupid. Sorry, Drew. Sorry, other guys that are listening to this. But there are a lot of y'all out there who think with the wrong head, and y'all are stupid. And you could be having a conversation with him about, or not you, but he's trying to have a conversation with you about sexual stuff and being very suggestive and talking very gross. And you could say, guess what? And automatically the subject's changed. What? He's curious because you're curious.
Right.
He wants to know. And it could be, I just got an orange. Okay, and I'm so excited. I love oranges. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna enjoy this. And he's like, cool. Like, I don't really like oranges, but cool. You know, he just cares what you care about, and it's that easy. It's that easy. The guess what method works every time. But make sure you don't guess what something that he wants a picture of, in case you don't have a picture of it, like a new puppy or a new kitty. It has to be something simple and stupid, because they're stupid. And so, but it works.
Well,
it works.
Too mature faster than them, so. And also, it's hard. Like, I'm sure not every like boyfriend would be like, yeah, I would love for you to sit all day and look at unsolicited dick pics and talk to child molesters. Like, that sounds great, honey.
For sure. Like my boyfriend, we've definitely had a lot of conversations about this, and he supports whatever I want to do, which is really great in my situation. But for other situations, there's been decoys who have had to stop very shortly after joining because their significant other didn't agree, or things, they couldn't handle it. Like you said, they don't have the stomach for it.
Right.
So what I like to do before a decoy starts decoying is, first thing, make sure your significant other's okay with this. Like, first thing, you guys need to sit down, have a conversation, explain to them what you're doing, how you're going to be doing it, and just whatever you have to tell them for them to understand.
Like what your intentions
just so that no fights.
Reasoning, just a open, honest conversation.
Yeah, so no fights break out. He doesn't see penis pictures on your phone. It's a pedo penis, and
right.
Gets upset, and it maybe turns out to be domestic violence situation in a lot of relationships when they find things like that. So I just don't. I want to avoid any. I just think of all situations, so I want to avoid that and just have my decoys be safe.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this, and don't take it the wrong way, but it's what I've been showing on it. I'm just like, if you're being a decoy for, let's say, like 5 years, 10 years, and you're doing that every single day, and you're talking to like the worst of the worst, but you're not as fortunate as you, like you don't get to confront them, so you don't get like that little smidge of like satisfaction of like, I got you, like you're caught red-handed. So do you think over a long term it can alter someone? Like how they perceive people, and especially with trust, and or if you're a woman, especially like being around men, or like just like being weary, like how would that affect like someone's like mind, body, and soul if they're like really deep into it for, let's say like about a decade?
That's a very interesting question, and I have a lot. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. One, I think someone could become angry, just because. What can you do? There's like not a lot that we can do. And so I think someone that's just decoying a lot and seeing these things a lot, you become angry and you become very frustrated, and you tend to maybe take it out on people that are around you. And you can't help that, but you're just...
The natural reaction.
Yeah, you're projecting, but some people can't handle it for a long period of time. You need to take breaks. You need to go have a hobby. You need to just not be dedicated to just this 24/7. And that goes for everybody in the team. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Like Drew, he would always put together the chat logs. So he wasn't decoying, but he was reading all the chat logs. that we would send to him, and he would alter them to where it was easier for our like the supporters to be able to read, and he would put collages together of their face and like the most disgusting chat logs in next to his face and the license plate. So he's not a decoy, but he would be seeing all these things too. So same for him, like you got to have an outlet, you got to have people to talk to. And there's another way that I can answer this is could like make you depressed if you have and trigger memories, if you have a past, if you're a survivor. I know of people who have gotten triggers and anxiety attacks and broke down, and it's a lot. And there's certain things that can trigger someone easily. And then there's another thing that I've thought about. We caught someone, an ICAC member, Internet Crimes Against Children.
Mm-hmm.
His job is to look at the child porn and make arrests, right?
Right.
Well, he came to meet a 15-year-old boy. Did he go into that job having this fetish for children? Or did he develop the fetish looking at child porn every day? So I think the same thing about decoying. So
I remember you and I had that conversation about that specific worker, and I was like, do you think it was because of the submersion into just like watching on a computer screen, like in and out messages, and like, was that it? Because I mean, Drew, you do that, and I do not see you doing anything of that nature.
Well,
like,
I was
not
going to say, like, I mean, I'm not an ICAC officer. I'm not looking at I mean, because they watch videos and things like that. But the guys, I think the chat logs are the most convincing out of everything because they seem more comfortable in the chat logs than they do talking on the phone. Usually, they release a lot. At least that's what I got from it. But I have never been turned on reading chat logs from any of these type of things. If anything, it's just made me disgusted with people, honestly.
So maybe that worker had like a predisposed thing, and that's just brought it
See,
out.
that's a question that we'll never have answered truthfully, I feel like.
Going back to what Drew said, it's like so deeply ingrained. And just like so hardwired in there that I think you would have to have something to like trigger it. I don't think like the ones that said nothing happened to them, do you really believe nothing happened? I mean, it had to, like,
I don't believe a lot that they say
from something. That's just like one of the organizations, like the difference between how organizations are being helped versus here and overseas are so different. Like, why do you think that is?
From what I have witnessed, the UK especially has had teams doing this for a lot longer than us. And they have their laws to where they can go to their front door, they can citizens arrest you, pin you to the ground, and the cops come within 60 minutes. Yeah. And they take them to jail, which is amazing. That's the most amazing operation that could happen for any predator hunting team. The thing with where we live is to worry about weapons and trespassing laws and things like that. Like, it's just totally different. They have just worked so hard in focusing on that problem, and they have been able to execute and show change, which with our communities in our country, I feel like it's not a main focus to make change in this area of things. They're more focused on drugs and Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that, you know? Like someone even doing weed. Someone argued with me in my message box because I made a post like, this guy came out from prison after like a year after raping an 8-year-old. And then this guy is in jail right now for weed. And he messages me and says, prove it. That's not true. And I sent him the article and prove it, and he just blocked me. He didn't want to believe it. So that's the problem. People don't want to have this conversation. They don't want to believe that something like weed is holding someone in jail right now.
Longer than a rape.
Yeah, and it's happening all the time. It's just uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable topic, and people have to break down those walls and just to make it a conversation, unfortunately, for things to happen.
It's very uncomfortable, of course. No one wants to talk about it, and I think that's probably the main reason why someone with some pot is going to have a longer time in prison than someone who raped a child, which is mind-blowing. Like, it really is. You have to kind of sit back and digest that. And there obviously needs to be changes, but I know that you and Jesse, right? You guys go all over, and like you have it perfectly set up from like your conversation because he drives across the country, so you're able to like do it all at the same time, kind of like a 2-in-1,
We
right?
did. It was for, we were on the road for like what, 3 months? 4 months? And four? Okay, we were on the road for 4 months, and it was honestly like the perfect thing that could have happened because, yeah, you're traveling all over, and whenever there's a stop, you're able to decoy, or on the way there, decoy the area because you know where you're going, and then be able to get exposures and be able to build up chat logs because the route was kind of the same every time. After like the first route, you're able to understand the route better and know where you're going to be going and build up those chat logs. And like I would be juggling multiple chat logs at a time in different areas so that we could be able to get these guys. I never like to ignore anybody when decoying because you never know who they're talking to. They could be
How do
talking to
you
another child.
Right?
know?
How do you build it up? Because you have to wait for them to come to you, right?
Right. They message the decoy first. They get sexually suggestive. They send the nudes. Decoy doesn't send any nudes in the as me as a decoy, I don't even tell them, I don't give them any feedback when they talk sexual. Like they could say like, "Can I give you kisses?" Like it'd be something silly like that,
Right.
and my response would be probably stupid to them, but it's like I've never kissed a guy before, or I don't really know how to kiss, and they're just like, "Really? I'll teach you." Blah blah. I'm like, I don't
They always
know.
want to teach.
Yeah, and I'm just always like, I don't know. Is that weird? Is that strange? You always ask the questions with questions, so you're always
Right.
getting information, you know?
Of course. And so like being able to like go over through so many states, the ones that have younger age of consent, do you see like there it's like more prominent, or like let's say the age is 14. Does that really mean they're after a 12-year-old? Like is there like
What I've noticed is every area is very similar. There's always a handful or more men who are intrigued by your age being younger. But I think the worst area for me personally that I have decoyed traveling was Colorado. In Colorado, the youngest I was 8 years old, and there was
eight?
more people than I can count that were definitely okay with it being an 8 year old and wanting to do disgusting things with the 8 year old. So
It's kind of
Colorado was very
kind of crazy
emotional.
like going right, I'm sure, because that's such a young age. It's like you're just learning stuff at 8. Like you're just deferring like real from real.
You,
Like Santa Claus is like real or not. Like you still think he is at 8. At
yeah,
least
you
I
gotta text
did.
different. You gotta talk different. Your lingo is different. And a lot of the
Yeah.
questions are like, why are you on a phone right now? That's like the first question, so that they can get that out of the way. They try to find out if you're like a real 8 year old or not, right? So, why are you on the phone right now? Is usually the first one. Like, my sister's sleeping. You just say silly things that you think they'll blow over. You know,
Yeah. Do
because they
you
don't care. Once they find out your age, that's all they care about. A true predator, the only thing he cares about is your age and if he can get you alone.
What's the tipping point? Like when do you go, okay, it's time for them to be confronted? Is it when they ask to hang out, or you tell me?
When they ask to hang out, it's definitely, it gets planned
Right.
because
Like
they're ready.
okay.
They're ready to hang out. Unless, say, we don't have enough information, then we're able to like say, well, my sister's coming into town. I can't really hang out yet because we feel like we don't have enough information. Like he hasn't sent a nude picture or he hasn't talked sexual at all. It's just been like a dry conversation. So something like that, we will be the ones that will back out and make it understanding to get more stuff. But yeah, usually they are they insist on meeting and they want to meet, and then we just execute it. We plan it.
Good. That must be so. I can't imagine how you feel. Yeah, it probably feels like a pure adrenaline. So like out of all the videos I've watched, and I've had school this semester, so forgive me, I haven't watched them recently. I've still that one woman, Amy. She really sticks
Yeah.
out in my mind. Have you had any other women?
We've had women reach out, but never exposed another woman but Amy. But I've
Okay,
talked
so
to
this is the only
multiple
one.
women.
So
Women are different. They
what
are
is the
smarter.
difference? Of course.
Yeah, they're smarter for sure, and they're just smarter. They're not dumb. Nothing can go over their head, you know? And women are not like men in the aspect of when they ask you a question, they want it answered. And they're not going to just forget like a guy would.
No,
You
right.
can change the subject on a guy.
We're gonna come back to it.
Yeah, he most likely won't come back to it. If he does, it's probably like a few days later and you just do the same thing.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, and it works. But with a woman, it's, hey, you ignored me. I answered it. You know, she won't let you change the subject until it's
No.
answered. And so
That's with any woman for anything.
it's definitely. So it's different, and it's disgusting that the woman wants to be with a child, so you don't want to be the one to mess it up. If she's gonna ghost you, let her ghost you. But that's where I just try to be as careful as I can.
I mean, I believe all like the three of us, we understand this is about power. What do you think women are seeking? Is it still a power thing, or is it something else? Is it like I want like a younger guy to find me attractive? Like what do you think it is for them? Or like from your conversations, like what would you say the driving force behind their
That's a good question.
Like what would like what's like the main difference?
It's a really good question, because the most craziest story that I've ever heard from a supporter that's a survivor was a story about the grandmother and the mom doing things to the son and getting caught for it. He was 6 years old and getting caught for it, and they had done it for months until they got caught. And nobody believed the little boy when he kept pointing down at his thing. So that was like honestly, that story is what woke me up to be like, wow, women really do this. And it made me look into more stories about it, because I had never really, like, I've heard some stories, but never into the extent of like those women were abusing him, like I've never heard before. So I went and I looked up more stories about it. I went and looked up more stories about it, and it's common, and they don't get caught as much as men do. And it's usually within the home, which is very sad. So
Like with a family member.
I don't know if it's power. I don't know if it's power or honestly anger and like
Other men
just urges, you know?
or just having like a basic sexual needs fulfilled, but it's like a slave.
It's hard. And I've never, besides Amy,
it's probably control. That's probably what it is. If I was
I've never talked to
in the dark.
I've never talked to one besides Amy. So Amy was
so
crazy situation.
Out of touch. Like when you were talking to her, I was like, listen, she's like trying to tell you something. I was getting so frustrated. And she was on the phone the whole time also. Like you're really not listening. You're on the phone.
I know, I was so frustrated too. Yeah. I just wanted to like yell at her, but I knew the way to handle it, you know? But it's like that, you have that feeling where you're like, just listen to me, please.
Kind of go into overdrive. Like, this is really, like, I don't tell many people. Like, listen. Yeah. Have you stayed in touch with her?
Oh, after that had happened, a Decoy was on the same app that she was on, and she had reached out again to the same Decoy and had talked to her for a little bit. So it's just
one. Did she ask like why did you do that, or she just went back to like?
Amy just didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to believe that it was a decoy. Like even going and talking to the same decoy, acting like nothing had happened, and that's scary. That
you can tell
her mindset's like that.
Yeah, you can tell from the videos that she just did not want to believe it. She was just like, no, they're my friend. Yeah. And I felt bad for her mom, because it's like she knew and she like quite didn't know what to do with her, but like kind of, but not really. She's like, I tell her you can't do this. And it's like, that must be hard. What do you know? She's like somewhere on the spectrum, so like it's like hard to get certain information through to some people. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, and if they don't understand, their devices just need to be taken away. They don't deserve to have devices, because that's their outlet, obviously. I mean, if she's not in an alleyway putting a kid in her van and all she's doing is finding these kids through her phone, that's the problem. Take the phone away. Take the tablet away. Don't give it to her. She could make a garden. Do something else.
Yeah. And also going back to like how people are in jail for much longer for, let's say, pot and versus like raping someone, and how society is just too uncomfortable to talk about it. But it's like we really do need to talk about it, because I don't think people are realizing the ripple effects, because what happens to that kid changes their whole life. The whole trajectory of their life has now changed, and the destruction and the damage that they're gonna cause in their wake is gonna be like so much more to deal with than like some petty crime with like, I don't know, 20 bag of pot. Like it's a bit
Yeah.
insane. It's very frustrating and it's angering, especially this little off topic, but like Brock Turner, he only got 3 months, but he's such a good swimmer, and that's what's important. But it's like, what about the girl? She just lost her life. She's like never going to be
Yeah.
the same again.
That's something we bring up all the time. Is just more punishment for sexual predators because there's not
And
enough.
and also like going back to that, like what is like the humane or moral way to do it? Because there is so much talk about that. Because like so many of us know it is very much hardwired into their system. And
I think that's part of the hard conversation because people don't want to admit that those type of people are out there, and a lot of them. Let's say there are some that want to get help. They're probably terrified to come out and try and say get help because people want to kill them. I mean, they
yeah,
really want to kill them. Like that
no,
is
literally, yeah.
really how people feel. I don't know. I don't. I don't know how you fix any of it really. I mean, like it's
Lobotomy. I mean, really, it's
well, even
like
in
you.
the places where they've done the chemical castration, like Australia, and we just talked about it. It's all power thing. So when you remove,
It's still
they
there,
still even if you cut it off, they would use an object or something like that.
right? Even if
So
you castrate it, it's in the brain. That's like where it's stemming from. It's like that need to control, probably because they lost control, right? Like you would assume to be like, okay, they lost control, so now this is their way of getting it back.
I never thought of it like that, but that's a good explanation of maybe some of it control some of their own chaos, I guess.
Right, right. I mean, it's hard to really, I mean, unless you like speak to someone, it's really hard to get. And everyone's different at the same token. Everyone has different experiences. Like my two friends, they didn't become child molesters. They have addiction problems, sure, but they're dealing with it. But it's like, where, like, is it the severity of the abuse that splinters off and makes you repeat the cycle, or like what are the variables? Like I suppose it's different for everyone, right?
I feel like how she was saying there was levels of pedophilia or predators. It probably all stems from that. I mean, it's going to be completely on an individual basis.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
that's why I think that some people seek jobs such as being a teacher or a doctor for children, or something to where they're surrounded by kids and have that access to where they're a leader in some sort. So they can be in control, or like a celebrity where you have a platform. So there's always a victim, that is going to look up to you. It's scary. And so it's really
And we have,
scary when it's people that are looked up to that become the predators too, or someone in your own home and then your own family don't want to believe it because they love them.
right. Because there's a lot
It's
of
really
denial
scary.
that goes into accusing someone that is, loved by many people. And we've also seen a lot of that in the media and the public with, with R. Kelly, with the Olympian physician that was just like out of this world.
There's that meme that floats around that says people are more likely to disown their child for being gay, and they'll protect the family member that's a predator, and that's a
Yes,
Right.
sad
that
reality.
is
That's really,
that
really
is
true.
Mm-hmm.
that is a sickening reality. You are completely right. And it's all based on shame, right? It's all because I'm embarrassed. It's because I don't want people to know. And it's all the secreting and keeping that secret and burying it deeper and deeper. And then so like if you are a predator and you have someone who knows what you've done and they're helping you bury that, and then you're suppressing it further down and pretending like, okay, I can do this. Like it's gonna erupt in a really awful way one day if you don't like get a handle on it somehow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, can you ever get a handle on it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I wish I knew the answer to. I wish I knew the answer to making it not happen anymore. But
I
I
mean,
think. Go ahead.
well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What you do? I mean, it's so brave and it's so like obviously takes a toll on your mental faculties. Like, what, like, can you like separate from it, like, without? like how do you like take a step back from it and be like reset, because you catch them and you confront them, but like how many of them actually go to jail? Because I feel like I would be so unsatisfied if like I went through all the trouble to talk to them and I confronted them and then they went to court and I don't know, they got out for like in a week. Like how do you keep going is what I'm asking.
Right. Every chat log, any type of evidence, phone calls, videos, wherever area that we're in, the detectives gets looked up and their emails are public and send it over and explain the situation in a paragraph or less, right?
Right.
And either the detectives will send an email back wanting more information or they won't. So there's people that we probably don't even know in an area that we've been to that is where there's an arrest. Probably don't even know about it. But the ones that we do know, it's definitely not as many as we've caught. And that is unsatisfying. And that's something that we have worked so hard to do, is trying to connect and contact people in the areas that we go to, and to be able, we just don't give up. We just always call the cops. We just always send it. And what they do is up to them, even though they don't do anything. But if we go back to that area, it doesn't matter. We're still going to do it. We're still going to send it. And hopefully one day there comes a time where every team that does this has a backing to where when your evidence gets sent in, there's an arrest.
Do you back
Or when
everything
you
up?
confront them, a cop just pulls up, you know?
Yeah. Do you back everything up that you send in? Because I mean, things get lost. You know, record buildings get
All
set on
right.
fire.
Everything,
I mean, well, now
everything's organized in, everything's organized in folders on my computer. And we use the same one email to talk to all the detectives. So the best thing that we can do is we have someone that we call super spy, right? And if we just want to check on someone, we just hit up our guy and say, hey, can you see the status of Jeff Christonaut? Let us know if he's still in jail in Spokane, or whoever we have gotten. He is really fast on finding the information and letting us know if they're still in jail or not. And when we find out that they're not, like say Adam Lee Dawson, he's still in jail, and which is great, and that feels good because he was a babysitter for room and board. So he didn't. Yeah, that was a messed up thing. We met at the library, got arrested on scene. But then there's someone like Jeffrey Lee Christonaut who got released in a short period of time when he admitted to raping a child, and that's disgusting.
I don't
So
understand.
just,
How is he released?
I don't know. We've gone to court before, and the prosecutor said, who was it for? I think it was actually the first hearing for Adam Lee Dawson. They sent us away. They're like, nope, we're not going to have a hearing. It's not going on today. But then they had a second hearing and it went through and he got arrested. But the first one, it didn't feel good, leaving the courthouse with nothing coming of it when they told us to come. But turned around and he got arrested and he's still sitting in jail. But with the Jeffrey thing, like that just doesn't make sense. I don't know. But his arrest had nothing to do with, like, we helped shed light on the situation, but his arrest wasn't because of us. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. But still, I mean, once you confess to raping a small child, I would think like it would be like open and shut case.
That's what we thought too. And no, it's not the case,
I
guess.
Ask this question. Do you think there's like something going on between like LA and the White House where they're like, only we can get the white guys in trouble, like this is our game, we like use that blackmail against each other? Because like they don't spend any, like it kind of makes you like go into conspiracy theory mode because they don't spend any time in jail and they always get let out. It's just insane. I don't get how you can permanently damage a child's mind and body and just be able to walk away from it a couple months later.
I think that's
Yeah. Go ahead, Drew.
part of the issue is I think a lot of police departments, not necessarily going to state my position on law enforcement right now, but I don't think there's enough for them to do what we expect them to do. And I don't think enough of them care enough to change the laws. Maybe they do. We've interviewed one that does, but he got chased out of his job. It seems like all the good cops get chased out of their jobs.
Why did he get chased out of his job?
I can't remember if it had to do anything with sexual abuse, but he was just trying to be a good cop, calling out the bull crap going on from other cops.
And he got, of course.
He was basically forced to resign, type of deal. And
That's awful.
yeah,
So that's probably the case everywhere. The more they show their good colors, it's like, nah,
Yeah.
you can't tell on us. It's like a little fraternity they got. But there are, they're different. It's like any group. You're gonna see different degrees of how they behave and how they react to everything. So yeah, I don't want to say my opinion either right now. It's not the time.
yeah.
Not the time.
But I do think that there is not enough laws because there's police departments that hate what's going on with the predator hunting community. There's plenty
Or
of
do you
them.
think that they're kind of just like throwing their hands up there? Like, if there's just so many, it's so much to deal with, it's so much evidence, and we just kind of are at a loss of this mass of information coming in, and we don't know how to like shuffle through it and how to organize it and how to delegate through it properly and sufficiently.
I think part of it is they have a heavy focus on other things than sexual predators. I think there's a heavy focus on trafficking, literally traffic, and then the war on drugs seems to be a continued thing that they're obsessed with. It has just been a complete failure. And then I think there's just not enough laws for strict punishment, because you look at like with the Brock case with 18 months or whatever he got. You look them up all the time. People getting off for sexual charges, and then child porn. They only get like 30 days in prison, and then they're on like house arrest or something like that.
And they get devices. They have devices as soon as they're out. They find a way to get a device. There's the very first arrest that we got in Colorado. He had done years. Right when he got out, he was in a halfway house. Told us how he got the cell phone and how he stole a charger from his halfway house roommate, whatever. And just told us how he did it, and then out meeting a kid, and now he's in jail.
Do you think that maybe that could be a solution, to have them disconnected from the internet? Or is that like more scary because then you're going to think, oh no, they're going to go to the playground?
I think
that's a good
anything
question.
laws like
that.
It's
like a tool, like it's like it's paraphernalia basically, right?
Well, I mean, how do you ban someone from the internet though? Because then we're talking about internet ID then, and you're talking about infringement on people's rights. Because I don't know how you would. I mean, they do get banned from the internet. They're not supposed to be on there to begin with. A lot of
they can't keep track of that.
Okay, but so that is the thing. They do get banned from it.
I believe the stipulations for almost all sexual type of predators when they're on parole and probation.
You're not allowed on
the internet. They're not allowed internet or any of that type of stuff.
No social media, nothing.
Yeah.
But of course, how do you actually police that, right?
Yeah, there's no way to.
They don't care. They don't care.
Because even if you give them a phone that you can track, they'll just get rid of it and get a different one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where it comes.
And I think I think these are conversations that we need to start having. I think you can see that the resources are completely unproportioned, and if they're having so much intake of predators and this kind of thing, then they should have more people do the math, figure out how many police officers, how many law enforcement, how many FBI, whatever you need, so you can actually make a successful task force and actually do something. Make it be okay, yeah, I shouldn't do that because that's gonna really ruin my life.
Technically is task force, and we caught one of their agents, ICAC officers.
No, I know.
And that's the thing. It's just they're supposed to be doing these things, and they're not. And I don't know. I'm not on here to crap on people on their jobs or anything like that. I understand that the cops have a lot of stuff to deal with when it comes to laws and what they're allowed to do, especially with situations like this, like what we're doing. But that's why we've talked to a bounty hunter and talked about they need to set up a process of allowing decoys to be almost like bounty hunters, because we could assist them, and then there wouldn't be this weird gray area where
we could be the resource that's missing.
Exactly.
Sure.
And
the missing link.
Sit there and be like, no, I don't think you should. But it's if you're willing to, and you have your support system, and your people that are going to protect you, why wouldn't they want more people to help? Mm-hmm. I never got that. When you told me your interview with Dr. Phil, I was I don't I understand what they were trying to say, but at the same time, you guys are adults. You have an organization. You're organized. Why wouldn't they? If you're just trying to do good. I don't think anyone should be no, you can't. You have to. I understand you should get the proper schooling, but if you're willing to put your life on the line, I don't think anyone should be able to tell you can't.
Right. What does a bounty hunter go through?
Right. Exactly. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, and if maybe things were different, like they are overseas, like where you would be able to do a citizen's arrest and like hold them there or like haul them off to the jail, things maybe wouldn't look so bleak here.
But even in the UK where they get arrested, their punishments aren't that bad. And even their jails that
Wow.
they go to in Europe, I mean, not to like
Yeah, they still need more
credit our
time.
American prison system, but at least they go to a hellhole. I mean,
Right.
they're
Right,
basically hotel rooms in Europe. I mean, they
right.
get access. I mean, maybe not sexual predators, but they have access to internet. That family can live with them in some places, things like that.
Really? I didn't know that. That's
I don't know
interesting.
about the UK, but there's places in Europe that are like that. Their prison system is much different. It's much more lenient, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing when it comes to sexual predators. When it comes
Right. There's
to
been a time where I was watching a live video of one of the UK stings, and in the comments they're saying how, well, as they were putting him in the car, someone was mentioning how it doesn't do any good. They're just going to take him to the jail and release him. So I don't know if it's certain areas, like maybe that team in that area and other teams in that specific area, that's what that happens. But there's also that going on too. It just depends on the police and the area and the laws there. But overall, in all areas across the world, there needs to be more punishment for predators. We even have done podcasts where there's a legal age that's what, 8 years old was the youngest
I believe
when we
in
covered that. Was it
Yemen.
six?
Yemen is 8 or 9 years old.
Mm.
Large parts of Mexico, age of consent is 12. The United
And how is
States
that
has
even?
as young as 14 in some states. I can't remember exactly. It's you look them up, you'd actually be surprised which ones they are. They're not what you
Right.
would stereotypically think.
In
Um,
pedo paradise, where the white men can just go there and buy a child for what, like 50 cents, and
oh, in that's in
and those are
not Uganda.
babies
That's in Guyana, I think, is where
mm.
they're renting children by the hour there.
50
For
cents?
50 cents,
So
25 cents,
that's
yeah,
what
and
some of
it's
the reports are.
like
Wait,
8 years
wait.
old, 4 years old, 5 years old.
Well, and then look at the sex tourism in like Thailand, things like that. And they have huge, massive problems. They arrest guys in stings over there all the time. But what's the punishment again?
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to have a conversation about how to get them. Anybody across in any area, there is a group that knows how to get them the right way. But it's the punishment. They're not spending enough time focusing on that and trying to get them. I think they just don't know how. Just like the conversation we're having when you're asking, you know, can they be rehabilitated? Like, and I don't know if they can, and the cops don't know. I don't think specialists know. I don't think ICAC members know. I think they're just doing what they can, even though people of a power in these same units, such as ICAC or in police task forces or whatever, there's predators lurking everywhere. So it's just,
Everywhere.
who can you trust? At the end of the day, people just don't know what to do or who to trust or whatever. Sorry, my dog.
Oh, well, I think that's why it is too, okay? I think that's why it's so important to have like a really strong support system. Like you were talking about your friend, like if you weren't able to laugh, you would eventually cry, right? I mean, you have to
Oh
have
yeah,
people that you're able to
yeah,
talk to and vent and get those feelings off of yourself, so you're not bottling anything up.
yeah. Because you can only try and try and try before you feel like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? Do I just stay consistent in doing this? Do I try something else? Like, you're just asking yourself tons of questions on what to do too. We
Right.
don't have it figured it out. We're learning something new every single day, and it's a scary world. And like that's why every single episode I'm just like, more punishment for predators. Like, I saw a meme floating around. The next riots should be for the predators and the rapists and the molesters out there. Like, if we're gonna do
Yeah.
anything, we should come together and talk about this, guys, next, because it is a problem. It's just
The
about a
children are
problem
the
as any other.
future. Yeah. I think that's why I mean, it's uncomfortable and I understand, but it's only going to get worse, right? I mean, if we don't do anything now, it's just progressively going to get worse. I think
Oh
we
yeah, legal
can.
ages for marriage will be younger and younger, and then parents are going to wake up and be really ticked off that their 12, 14-year-old is out getting married and they can't
Well,
do anything about it.
there's a movement right now, the minor attracted person. That's the MAPS. That's a whole thing right now. Look that up. They're trying
What
to.
is it?
It's called a minor attracted person. They call themselves MAPS. They're like outwardly admitting to being pedophiles, but it's like a PC term of calling yourself a pedophile. They wanna
The
align the
PC term of
sexuality with
calling
the
yourself.
lesbian gay movement too, which is really really sad and sick.
I didn't know if I wanted to get into that. How that seems to be what they're saying now is, well, it's the same as being gay.
Well, like I said, I think it's hardwired,
No.
and
It's not.
but
It's
it's
not.
not the same as being gay because being gay is not a crime and is not abusing
Right.
people.
You're
Or
not hurting
you're not
anyone.
hurting anyone. I mean,
You're
it's I guess
ruining a
like
child's whole future by
it's a
being with
it's a
them.
weird thing cross between fetish addiction and then hardwired sexuality. It's like it's almost in its own category because it's
Right, like
got
its
so
own
many.
software program that we don't know. Like, wait, we can identify it, we can kind of understand some bits of it, but like as a total complex thing, and we're just like, this is too much. Like, where's the red? Where do you put the red wire? So this just stops and goes on.
And taking that innocence away, like
Yeah,
it affects everything. So that's like why if someone, I've never heard someone to my face say that they wanted younger age to be legalized for marriage, right? If someone said that to my face, I would want to ask them in return, what is it? What are you gaining from taking someone's innocence away? You know what I mean? Like that's a great question that I've never had answered honestly, I feel like. So it's just like what are you gaining? Because I remember watching it's a Chris Hansen interview, and he's covering the Davi Vanity case. And the girl Jessie had mentioned how even to this day, right now, after everything that had happened to her, she loves him. That was her first, and she loves him, and she doesn't know why. She doesn't want to be with him. She doesn't want to see him. She does not want to go hang out with him. But she has like a love for him still, like where she'll go check his Instagram or something like that, or just keep tabs on him, things like that, because she still cares because that was her first, and that's something that these guys do is being there first. It does leave that emotional connection there, and that's all that I feel like that's all that's happening. You're doing that and then ruining their life. Like
and then just
you're
ripping
hanging on,
away, right?
right? You're taking the control, or you're putting yourself in control, like of their life, pretty much. I feel like because when they're that young, tell them what to do, things like that. Just control them for the rest of time, and it's sad, super sad.
And
People aren't talking about it enough.
they can also break that innocence just with the conversations that they have, just like planting that idea, like you were telling Amy, just like even that little seed that's not supposed to be there because they're not ready for it, they don't understand, it's going to spout and it's going to cause,
Curiosity, for sure. They're gonna go look it
Yeah.
up if they're not gonna get the answers from you. They'll go look it up and find it elsewhere. Just because you brought it to their attention, You
Right.
can't just tell someone something and then not finish, right? Not
Right. You
finish
can
telling
put
them or showing
toothpaste
them.
back in the toothpaste.
Right.
The toothpaste tube. Sorry.
Yeah,
Can't put
that's true.
toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube. Right. You can't say something and put it back in your mouth. Just can't.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's a scary world that we live in. And it's a shame that more people aren't advocating for these kids. Because you would think that someone that, raped a child and got off for a couple months or whatever it is, that people would be rioting and protesting about that. But it's like, no, it's just one. But
It's not in the news enough either, and not a lot of people in the areas will look up the sex offender registry and find out who's a sex offender. Not a lot of people go to the website Watchdogs, and even though it's so easy to use, not a lot of people know about it or go to it. And you can type in your address, your kid's school's address. You can find their route that they take walking to a store or a friend's house, and you can see all the predators that live on the block just by putting in an address. And you can see that, and that way you can redirect your kids going somewhere else. You can use the Qustodio app, and you can see where your child is by using a cell phone instead of taking phones away for punishment. Learn how to use it. It's the biggest tool that we have.
The Qustodio app, right? Because it mirrors their phone onto your phone, so you get to see everything, and there's like no hiding anything.
To me, it's silly, like the whole phone thing, right? Like I can't tell anybody how to parent or anything, but this is my advice. You learn how to use the phone in a non-entertainment way. Learn how to lock it up to where you can't get entertainment from it, and you can only use it for things that you could only use a calculator for in school, right? You can only use a calculator as a calculator. You can only use a ruler as a ruler. Well, you can turn a phone to make it be nothing but a good tool for your child and lock away all the entertainment, and that's it. Period. You don't have to take it away for punishment or anything like that. I always have a child, they would have a phone as soon as they can walk and talk and know how to do whatever, and I'll know how to lock it up to where they don't have YouTube. They don't have any way to be able to download an app. You can do that. They won't have Snapchat. They won't be able to text anyone but probably like the mom, dad, and a grandma or something, or call. And you could see all of the texts that come in and out. You can see all the calls that come in and out from your own device. If you allow them to have Snapchat because they get to a certain age, you can see all the Snapchats that go in and out. You can see all of their Instagram stuff. There's ways to literally, just like we talked about Mama Max, see someone else's phone from your phone. You just need to know how to do it. And the GPS tracker, like, that's the best tool when your kid is out at a friend's house or says they're going to a friend's house or even at a soccer game. Like, you never know what's going to happen.
Right. And like looking back and like thinking about all these devices and like this new technology that's coming out, like do you ever think like if people were more educated, if more parents knew, if more parents did this, or if more kids like had controls over their devices and oversaw, like this wouldn't happen as much?
Yeah, that's why I recommend people to go to the page An App a Day Keeps the Sickos Away, because that page in detail every day posts something informative for parents or grandparents or whoever. That way you know what every app is doing, how to use the phone correctly, how to use apps, how to block apps, how to do all sorts of stuff. And that page is the most informative page throughout the past 3 years of me doing this that I've seen, honestly.
Right. I think the more that, parents become educated and informed and start utilizing this, it'll be less scary, but it's just like the fact that no one thinks it's going to happen to their kid. Right. I mean,
people want to.
Most of us are like, that's not going to happen to me. That's not going to happen to me. And now, especially in this time, we're getting to see like unprecedented things and things that have never happened before, at least not in our lifetimes, and how people are handling everything. And it's just like everything is like it's so easy to say like this should have been done better, or this is what should have happened after the fact, like in retrospect.
We can't change the past.
We can't change the past, and also being in denial and being like, no, that's not going to happen to my kid. So I don't need to go through all these extra steps basically to make sure that their iPhone's this, their friends are great, their parents, I know them. It's like, what would you say to like someone like that? Where it's like, no, like we come from a good family, the friends are great, the neighborhood's wonderful, the school's excellent.
It's just being naive.
Someone who's sheltered, right?
Yeah, very sheltered, yes.
Okay, so if you're sheltered, it depends. If this person is having a conversation with being naive, right, and showing that they're naive and not wanting to believe it and not wanting to have a conversation but having the conversation, that's different. That turns to an argument, and to where I will say either we disagree to agree or we can try to see eye to eye. But if it's a person that's willing to learn, then I would just definitely, I would lead them in directions for the best information, which is Watchdogs, the website, which is An App a Day Keeps the Sickos Away, which is these predator hunting videos. I just think it's all very informative, all on its own.
Do you think that like all this information that you have for parents like would be very beneficial like in a PTA meeting, like if you could like make a video and like send it out to schools and be like, next PTA meeting, like have them watch this, and so they know like which apps to go to and how to use it and learn everything they can and just be like aware of it and like show them the statistics of like the numbers of how kids are being affected. Like it's not just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Before Corona happened, there were some things that were being planned to be able to do in assembly, right? And to be able to do not only in assembly, but what is it called? What is it called? Sorry, brain fart. What is it called?
A summit?
It's like where you just speak. Not at a school, though. It was just the same thing as an assembly, but not at a school. It was a public one for parents in the area, stuff like that. But it's not called an assembly. I totally forget what they called it. But those two things were in the works before Corona had happened. So Corona's put a damper on. Now kids are not even in school. They haven't been in school for months, and they don't plan on
Right.
being in school for the rest of the year.
But that's also a little
craziness what's
scary
going
because
on.
they're home and they're bored.
And at home, in your own home, is where most predators are, is in your own home.
Right.
So that is really scary. Kids don't have that couple hours a day to be able to not be around that if it's going on, or to be able to have a chance to talk to someone if it's going on. But
just
you have neighbors and stuff.
Just thinking about the domestic violence and the women that have been killed during this pandemic, I can't imagine what it really is going on for the kids, because they don't tell you unless like you kind of like get them
Right.
in and be like, you can trust me, like it's okay, like it's hard for a kid to open up.
And I don't think
especially if it's like
people talk about this enough.
Them, like, you can't tell, this is our secret.
That's disgusting. Yeah. Or if you tell, I'm gonna hurt your family, or something like that.
That's a favorite, I think.
But also, what I don't think enough people talk about is the amount of homeless people also that are affected by predators. We have a woman that I was just scrolling through TikTok, and I know it's silly to say TikTok, but TikTok has a lot.
They're entertaining.
They're entertaining and they're very informative. I've seen a lot more on TikTok about this riot stuff than I have on the news. It's very informative, and it's real too. So I was scrolling through though, and I saw she had put her story there, where she was a homeless woman and had talked about how she's been abused. So I invited her to come on. She's going to be our next interview. And yeah, I don't think, like, I didn't think about it much until I had Drew look up the statistics. And so when he looked up the statistics and he had told me, it makes you realize like that this stuff really happens, right? It's just, I think people, you don't think about that. Like it doesn't randomly come to your mind, oh, I wonder if homeless people are being, affected by predators. It just doesn't come to your mind. So when that came to my attention, I realized the statistics on it and everything. It just made me want to interview her and get more information on this, because just like people not talking about their experiences to make change because it's uncomfortable, people don't talk about that stuff either, and it's just very informative. There's different ways to inform people on this, that hopefully if it wakes up somebody to be able to talk to somebody else about it, that's all that matters.
Right. If we can help one person, this will all be worth it. It's always so good talking. I swear we could like do this for days.
We'll have to have you back on and do another episode. This is a different way to do it.
Yes, I would definitely love that. I love interviewing you guys, and I'll have so many more questions because I have so many. I mean, but really, what you guys?
I want to ask you.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask you a few questions if it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious on, because you're going to college to be an at-youth risk counselor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
right?
Yes. Okay. So, what is you have goals behind why you're doing that, right?
Yeah.
What are they?
Well, I've always been into making like my little corner of the world just like a little bit better, and then how I found it. And at first, like, I was into physical therapy, and then it was like finances. But then after, like, throughout my whole life, I've always been like a really good confidant to all my friends. Like, the secrets, I know, it's just insane. And I was thinking, like, in high school, I was like, I want to be a psychiatrist. Like, that's what I want to do. And at that time, it was like people were going to school. I graduated in 2007. So people were like, because I've like changed my major like 5 times. But at that time, people were going and they were getting their masters, but they weren't getting jobs. So I kind of fell back into graphic design, and then years later it was like physical therapy. But then I was like, no, I really want to do, and I was still, a little psychiatrist to all my friends, but I kind of had this thought in my head. I was like, okay, when we reach a certain age, like especially into our adulthood, I think we're capable of change, but I think that change is like, give or take 15%. But if you get to a kid, my voice is cracking up. When you get to a child, you're able to break a cycle. Like, you're able to get in there young enough for them to have a different perspective, to be like, this isn't the end of the world. Like, here's another way of looking at it. Just being a safe place for them to go to and be able to talk about what they can't at home or with anyone else, I think would have a bigger impact and a better change for that individual than trying to like talk a narcissist out of like their little phobia. Or not sorry, did not mean to diminish it. it just clicked in my head that I would be able to do more good with children than with adults. And just also like with the
I feel
whole,
that.
and just I've had like, I have like friends, and they're the ones that have been molested, they've gone through addiction, and just like thinking of like how what could have been different if that was like shared, or if they felt they had someone they could talk to. Like, I know like in our conversation you were like having that counselor was like everything for me, like just being able to go and talk to that person. And I think like I also told, this is like a little bit like off topic, but like the reason I really got into this whole thing, like when I was like going through Instagram and I saw the videos, and the reason I kept watching like one after the other, basically until like there weren't any more videos to watch, is because, and I told you this, Gina, but I'll just go over it again. When I was born in Russia in '89, and it was a crazy time. Like people were just healing like from the economy, and it was just like you would get red spots over on your body, like on your nose or elbow or arm. I got mine in the middle of my nose and had to get surgery, and that's why we moved here. But before that, my mom, but she was going stroller shopping, and she wanted this like really pretty red stroller, but they only had it in blue. So she kind of was like, fuck it, I'll just take the blue one. And she's walking, me and her, we're just like outside in the like on the sidewalk walking, and it's like no one's really out, it's just her, and there's this other lady with the stroller with a red one on the other side of the street, and she's looking at her like, bitch, like I want that red stroller. Like my mom can just be like, like funny like that. And then but 2 seconds later, this black van pulls up, and these guys jump out, and they see that it's a little girl in the stroller, and they take her. But they also look across the street and look at my mom and me, and they see that it's blue. And they just assumed that I was a boy, and they left. And my mom's like, but she's like, God, she's like, I just turned around and like walked the other way. But she's like, but if they went and opened, they would have seen like pink ribbons and frills, and like you're obviously a girl. It's like that always kind of like stuck with me. And I'm like, what if I was kidnapped? Like, how would my life look like? Like if I was like in as like a literally a baby into sex trafficking, like what kind of life would that be? So like when I saw your videos, I was just like very intrigued. I'm like, I really respect it, and I just think it's so brave. And I was just like, I just want to talk to you, and also get to just some tips about how to talk to kids. Like how do you make them feel safe, and like how do you get them to be comfortable to share that kind of information with you, and like what can you say to like change them from hurting themselves or for hurting someone else? Like I know one of the things we talked about is like, well, how would you feel? If
Right.
that got you, like how would that make you feel if you did it to someone else?
Because I think that's not a question that parents would want to ask their kid. That's a very deep question, like that. But kids that have gone through that, they know. And so that
Right.
is a very, I think, important question, because it's going to put a lot of things in perspective in the kid's mind. It'll
Yeah.
make them think differently and think more in depth about what you're asking,
Yeah.
rather than not asking and hoping that they don't reoffend.
I mean, it's
You should
crazy
put
how
that
you
on their
can,
mind.
right. And just how
Yeah.
rephrasing something, it can totally change how someone's view on it. It's like, oh, like I never heard someone say it like that. And it's just like something
Yeah.
just clicks, and it's like, okay, I can use that. Like that sticks. I understand that.
Yeah. And like making kids more comfortable to talk to you. Like that's where parents have to draw the line from being friends and parents, right? They have to draw that line somewhere and discipline their kids, and not always be the best friend to them,
And
or the
and
yes person to them, right?
right, and that's why I think,
Yeah.
it's a village, and I think, just having another, extra
Yeah.
set of hands be able to like assist would be a lot. Like I know I'm picturing myself as a mother with a kid that's been through something like that. I would want help. I would be like so scared to do it by
Yeah.
myself. Like I wouldn't, like even one word, I would be afraid that would ruin everything. Like I ruined it all. It's like, of course, we need help. We need to help each other, because if we're just like here up by ourselves, you'll get far, but you only get so far.
100%. And if you are looking on how to talk to your child, I think something that would work, like what I had mentioned to you when we talked on the phone, is look at this.
Right.
Look what I saw. Look what I saw today. And you're trying to teach your child about what's going on in the world, or sexual abuse, or show them something in the news, like a news article. Like, my team and we send news articles to each other that we want to post on the Betrayed page, and just reading them, it teaches all of us something new. So why not show that to a child to teach them something about like what not to do, but do it in a way that they would want to learn, not like
Where it's
you
engaging.
have to, right? But do
Right.
it in an exciting way to where they're curious with you. There's just ways that you can say things and do things that has an effect on people, like
And
some
they're like,
reverse
oh,
psychology
cool.
type stuff. Like if you,
Like you're not trying to be an adult. Like you're actually trying to understand me on my level and not be like, I'm smarter than you. Do this. It's like, no, come here, look at this. Like, look what I saw. Like, what do you think? Because I feel this is crazy.
be outgoing and curious, and show the excitement in your voice, whether it's something bad or something good. Show that, like, maybe there's a good outcome. Maybe he's in jail. Oh my gosh, look at this. This guy went to jail today for this. And can you believe he did that? Like, you would
Right.
never want to do something like that to someone.
Like,
You
it's
know
an
what I mean? Like,
engaging
you could have.
conversation. And it gets them thinking
Yeah.
because they're responding because they're talking back to you. So they have to think. They're like, right. Like, and then it's like, oh yeah.
But that resonates in their mind. And if you feel like you're not making an impact by doing something like that and teaching your kid something that it might be uncomfortable to teach, if you feel like it's not working, usually someone else, it works with someone that's not a parent, you know? Like, if I was having this struggle, I would go to like an uncle or an aunt, and I would tell them like, hey, I'm trying to teach my child this, and like it's just not working. They're not like, they don't seem interested, right? They don't seem like they care, and I want this to resonate with them. So can you show them this? You know, can you ask someone, have help? Because trust me, it will help. Being told things by my uncle has sat with me more than what my parents have said to me. I have the I don't have a good relationship with my dad at all, and I have a relationship with my mom now, but she had turned to drugs when I was younger, so our relationship had been rocky through my teenage years. So them telling me anything, it's just like I'd always just not care.
Like,
just
who
like,
are you to tell
who cares?
me?
Like, you didn't stick around, you didn't raise me. Get out of here. You have no right to tell me anything. That was my mindset. But my Uncle Mike or
That's a
my
natural
aunt,
way to feel. Yeah.
right, they say something and it sticks. So put yourself in your kid's shoes, have they went through past trauma, just like you got to think about how they learn, and you got to produce that and help them with that. Otherwise they never will, and then you don't know what kind of adult they're going to turn out to be.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think it's like, I'm not a parent, but I think as parents, it's your job to make sure that before you let them or you kick them out of the nest, like they're a functioning person, they're a functioning citizen to society. Because if they're not, then you see like how communities get ruined and drugs and homelessness and it's just like horrific things that you don't want to see. But it's just like, if you could have just put them on their feet before you kick them out of the house, then maybe this picture would look completely different.
And people are quick to cut people off when they mess up.
Very
quick, even if it's family. But yet a predator can rape
especially
a child
if
within the
something they don't want
family.
to hear. Right.
Yeah, and the child talks about it and nobody wants to listen, but yet the kid can do something petty and they get threatened to get kicked out of the house. It's just unhealthy. I think there's just ways to go about everything.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree.
Do you have a betrayal story?
No, no. I mean, like I said, I have two friends that one was with like it was a neighbor that they were young and it was this whole thing and but like personally no, like the one that I had was like the closest that I got to it, but like I've seen like how it's like affected girls and boys and how it affects them differently, like how boys like tend to overcompensate and how a lot of girls are very promiscuous because that becomes their love language in a sense. So like I've seen the effects of it. So if I can like I said, if I can help and just like leave it better, just like I said, it was just all coming to like a click when I was deciding on where to focus psychology under. Like, do I want to do adults? Do I want to do kids? Do I want to do kids with behavioral problems? So that's like where it landed at risk youth. so they are younger and you're able to cut off a abusive cycle or just change your perspective, because I think I'll do more good with children than with adults, because like I said, I personally believe
Right, and
adults can change, but only to like the 15th degree maybe.
I'm in the same boat. It'd be more rewarding to see a child, be able to form their future and be a part of their future, and maybe you'll be thanked one day for helping
I mean,
a
I'm not
child be
talking
able
what
to,
I'm looking for, but I mean that
come
would,
out of their.
yeah, of course, that would be great. But like the whole point is, I think we're all like all of us. I think we're all supposed to leave our little corner a little bit better than we found it. I don't think we're supposed to be adding more destruction and pain and chaos. So like, if you can do good, and when you're a good person, you don't really think about it because it's just like that's just what you do. And even if you're not, I think any little bit helps. Like that that's what I think we're supposed to be here. Because listen, I could have gone for the big psychology degree and did the years and got paid really great money, but I'm just like, no, I'm gonna stay smaller because I'll feel, not only will I feel better about it, but I think I know that I'll be doing more good from it. Like more good would be coming from it than if I was just to stick with adults. Because I mean that also gets boring. Because I've talked to psychologists and like how like just in there like it gets really mundane and then you kind of go crazy yourself because you start to overanalyze everything. Like I'm sure you've heard that saying, like how psychologists go crazy because they overanalyze everything. I think when you keep it with kids, you're able to make a bigger impact and you're able to, the message is able to be received better and for like a longer time.
Yeah, because their kids are more willing to learn. They pick up
Right.
on things
And
very,
they're sponges.
very quick.
And adults are rigid in their ways, so it's like very hard to change someone. And it's like, and what are you really doing it for? Is it really just for in vain? When with a child, it's like you're changing a life. You're not just trying to talk someone out of a phobia or out of a fear or out of their divorce. It's like, I don't know, it's so much more impactful. There's so much more depth to it, and I think it holds a lot more weight.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I'm looking forward to hear more, especially about your experiences when you start, talking with. Do you talk with kids yet, or no? You're still just in college.
Not yet, but I have one of the experiences that I was told, which was actually, it's really, it was shocking. She does the same thing I do. She's a counselor, and she was working with this little boy. He was like about 12 years old. He had no one in his life, not his family. He didn't have any friends. No one was there for him. He only had this counselor. And she, went out of her way, did everything, thought they were really close, really thought she was getting through to him. And he committed suicide. And he left a note. And he blamed her. So it's like those are the realities, and that's okay. And I know that I'll be coming home with a lot of that weight. But if I can just help one kid, it would all be worth it. Like all the school, everything, it'll all be worth it.
I think like just when you talk about with what we do, and seeing what we see, is the exact. You're in the same boat, just because you're hearing like true stories all the time, and that are devastating, and it's more with you because you got to figure out how you could get through to them, how you can talk to them, and you're just kind of like being the person that they need that has never been there.
Right.
And that's like
exactly
it's a very big shoe to fill, honestly. I know that with my experience when I went to a counselor, I felt like I could really tell her anything, and I feel like she wouldn't tell nobody, and like that was a really good feeling.
See, I
really
want to be
nice.
that counselor. Like, I want to be like you're a counselor. That's how I want to be. Like, I want kids to be excited and comfortable and telling me, and it's just being able to know how to deal with it. Because it's just I've never been through it, so I can only imagine, But it's so hard to imagine.
Her personality was very like just excited to see you, and it felt nice having someone excited to talk to you that day, even if it was just. She was just doing it because she knew it would make you feel good, and like maybe she was having a crappy day. Like that was just her job, though, and it worked because like it definitely works for someone like a child that doesn't have like many friends or doesn't open up to people easily or nobody at all, and can't talk to their parents or feel like they can't. It's definitely a rewarding feeling to have that person to go to, and it changes people's lives for the better.
I was just going to say that it does, because it actually gives you actually see someone in real life where you're like, not everyone's bad. Like, there are people out there that I can talk to and I can trust and I can confide in. And even if, I mean,
And people need that interaction.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see it more and more every day. Like, you know, right now things are very tense, like, because we've been locked down for so long, and then all this happens, and it's just, we need outlets, we need support, we need to have a community. Like, I mean, what would you guys do if you didn't have your support system? Like, you crumble, right? Because it's just, your psyche can only take so much before you start splintering
Right.
off, start disassociating yourself, and just being like, no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna detach from this. It's gonna be too painful. I can feel it, so let me just disconnect now. So that's hard. So you have to have people you're able to talk to and confide in and be comfortable in having those difficult conversations.
Yeah, I think the team especially, even about just things like that doesn't pertain to this, just life stuff, they're my go-tos. You know what I mean? They're my
right.
family. So,
Because they
and
get
I,
it.
and then and they're not just people on the internet either. We've met in real life and everything and stuff like that. So we have that bond, you know, it's not just talk, you know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people have more interaction with people online than their real life, and it's puts a damper on communication as well. You can't. A lot of people are not having good conversations in real life these days.
Well, I feel that's the trouble, and that's why people can't really have in face-to-face conversations, because they're so used to doing it behind a computer screen. Like, it's really easy to say
It's
you're
comfortable.
behind a screen, but once you're in front of someone's face, then it gets awkward. So, like, perfect the face to face before you start being like a keyboard warrior or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of those these days.
Yeah.
Funny. I think I want to end it on this note. I think we've had a long podcast, and we are definitely gonna have a part 2. So thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you, Anna, for coming on. I cannot wait to have you on again. We could talk literally for hours, and post it, and our audience will be like, "What the heck, Gina? This is hours long. We don't have time for this." So let's end it here. I think if you're listening to the end, please put hashtag more punishment for predators. That way we know that you're listening. I love you guys.
I love you guys are superheroes. I can't wait till part 2.
Thank you for coming on.
All right, bye guys. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon, Gina. Message me, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Bye, Anna.
Peace.